Hey mates, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kaitlyn and I'm an American learning to live down under here in beautiful Sydney, Australia. I can't believe I've been on YouTube for 6 months now. It feels like it has been so much shorter than that, even though I've made a couple dozen videos for you guys so far. It feels like I've only been doing this for a few weeks. And honestly, in the last 6 months, this channel has exceeded my expectations far beyond what I could have imagined. So when I started off this channel, I had no idea who my audience would be, what type of videos I would be making when I was over here. I had a rough idea of what I wanted to do, but I had no idea if my audience would be interested in that at all, or if I would even really have much of an audience to talk to at 6 months. So when I first started making videos, my first video was actually a video about travel exemption tips. Because Australia's borders were closed and thousands of couples were separated at the time, a lot of us were trying to figure out how to get a travel exemption to come over, and I had applied for about over 90 travel exemptions, all of which were denied because of the type of visa that I had, because Mark and I had only spent a really short amount of time actually together because we met just a couple months before COVID hit and the border shut. There was a lot of other bureaucratic red tape involved as well. I won't get into that. Luckily, that's not really an issue anymore now that Australia's borders are opening again. But my first video was tips about getting travel exemptions for people who are on the same type of partner visa that I am that wasn't exempt when I first filmed that video. And I shared that in a Facebook group where everybody was talking about how to get over, and that was my very first video. And it actually did pretty well. I got like 600 views in my first week by posting it to the Facebook group that group was for. And when I first started my channel, I initially thought, okay, this is probably going to be a channel for people who are coming to Australia, for expats, for people who are applying for partner visas, for people who are in like long distance international relationships. That's where I thought this channel was going to go. And for the longest time, a lot of my views were kind of mixed. I was getting people from the States, from the UK, from India, and a lot from Australia. And the Australian audience just kept growing and growing, and I'm like, this is kind of surprising because I really thought it would be more international. I didn't think it would just be a mostly Australian-based audience. And I kept creating videos about Australia, about reacting to people dating Australians. And in December, out of nowhere, for some reason, the YouTube algorithm picked up 2 of my videos and my channel just blew up practically overnight. And I know for a lot of people who are like, you only have like 1,500 viewers right now, that's not blowing up. But for me, I started December with 200 subscribers. And I'm like, okay, it's probably gonna take a year and a half for me to get like monetized on this. I'll be able to make some videos while I'm actually in Australia, about Australia, like within Australia, even though like COVID and the weather haven't been too cooperative about my outdoor videos. So when I ended December, I ended with 1,000 subscribers and over the 4,000 watch hours that I needed to get monetized. And I couldn't wrap my head around how fast that happened and just how many people had suddenly taken an interest in the videos that I was making. So I was able to make more Australian-based content, more content that I've been planning on making for a long time. Like when I first started this channel, I literally had a list of like 250 video ideas. And I've kind of been like, some I've been slowly checking off, some like this, I'm kind of just making out of the blue to sort of really share my experience now that I'm actually experiencing it, because I had no idea what type of videos I would be making when I actually got over to Australia. And to see my Australian audience grow has been absolutely incredible. Like over 85% of my viewers are from Australia, and that to me is completely insane. I'm still amazed, not just at how like friendly and nice everybody has been, but how interested people are in not only hearing about my story, but hearing about Australia from like an American perspective and an American's point of view coming over. Like, I'm not here for a short while. I'm not here on a backpacker visa. I didn't come over on a student visa, because you'll find so many college student videos out there, especially about people who are studying abroad over here in Australia. Like, I'm a little bit older than the typical like influencers you would find on Instagram and all. I just hit 30 in October. I'm definitely not old at all, but at the same time, I'm kind of old for a lot of like the typical social media platforms. So I think from that, there's something that's a little bit more relatable with a lot of other people. I'm not 21, I'm not going out partying, I'm not in uni, I'm not backpacking around Australia. Like, I'm here and I'm putting down actual roots in Australia, and that was my intention from the beginning moving over here. Obviously, I had an Australian partner. If you told me 3 years ago I would be moving to Australia, I would have laughed. I would have never believed you at all. Like, no, I'm staying in Philly. I have a career. My family's here. My friends here. It's a pretty decent location to like travel around. It's like an 8-hour flight over to Europe. I can go down to Mexico in a couple of hours. It does take a little while to get over to Australia, but it's like another 8 or 9 hour flight to get over to Asia. It was a pretty decent like central spot if I wanted to go traveling around the world. So I never would have thought that I would have ended up in Australia. I never thought that I would have met my partner when I was over here on holiday. I mean, technically we met on Tinder a couple weeks before I came over on holiday, but still, like, if I wasn't coming over here on holiday, I wouldn't have met him. So I started this YouTube channel from a bit of a different perspective, and honestly, I think it's actually a really common one. I think a lot of people are meeting their partners overseas these days between social media, just a general online presence. Obviously the last 2 years we haven't, but with people traveling around, I think it's become more and more common to meet people, or at least know someone who's met their partner overseas through dating apps, through things like Facebook. So if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit the like and subscribe button down below to join our little Amer-Australian family. If you can hear her, my dog Claire is very excited that you're here as well. So are some of the birds outside. So if you're enjoying this, hit the like and subscribe button and join our little Amer-Australian family, where I post on Mondays and sometimes Thursdays about the differences between American and Australian culture and the overall process of learning to live down under. So I started this channel thinking I would be making content for expats, and it's kind of funny because it's completely swapped. And now I'm making content for people who are mostly based in Australia. And so many of my viewers seem to be, from the comments, are Australian, were like born and raised here, grew up here, and there's people from all over the country, all walks of life, which has been so interesting to see. I mean, there are just people who talk in the comments about things that are pronounced differently in different states and things that are called different in different states, and honestly a little bit of COVID talk about QR codes and all, but let's not get into that. Let's keep this like a bit of a happy video. No COVID talk, please. So in 6 months, I never would have thought that I'd have 1,000 subscribers. Actually, I'm filming this just a couple days after what's technically my 6-month anniversary, and I'm at 1,500 subscribers, which still, I can't wrap my head around how fast that has grown, like how fast this audience has grown. And like, thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing. It really is amazing to see just how kind people are here. Like, another really big reason that I wanted to do this YouTube channel was to kind of like film my journey as I was going along. Not as like a documentary necessarily, but something for me to actually look back on and see where I was and where I started and where I'm at today. And to think that 6 months ago I was making a video about tips to get exemptions so that way thousands of couples could try to be reunited with the borders shut, and getting news that in just a couple of weeks, actually it might only be a week or two at the time this video launches, that Australia's borders are opening up internationally to tourists is amazing. Like, just to see the progression of my channel, of where Australia's at, of kind of where the whole COVID border situation is at, this has been such an amazing experience for me to, in a way, document this all from my point of view and to share with everybody what it's actually like living abroad as an immigrant. Because I feel like a lot of people assume one of two categories. It's either the immigrant that absolutely loves their new country and just assimilates right away, and basically it's fake it till you make it. They try to fake an accent, they try to use words and the lingo, and it almost comes across as force. And then you have the person that doesn't want to assimilate at all. They're so deep-rooted in their own culture, their own beliefs, that they don't care about basically the law of the land of the new place where they're living. And I feel like for so many of us, there really is an in-between. Like, we're learning, we're trying, we're not trying to fake it, we're not trying to like bullshit anybody. We want to fit in, but we also don't want to be fake. I'm not going to start suddenly talking with an Aussie accent. A couple people have mentioned like I have some vowel sounds, I have some words that are like slipping in that sound a little bit Aussie, which to me is kind of funny because I still think I have such a thick Philly accent. but I've even just tried saying Aussie words. Somebody keeps posting over in some of my comments that I should start my channel with g'day, how you going? But to me, that sounds so fake, and even probably just hearing that with an American accent, I can almost see people like either laughing or rolling their eyes at that. So I don't want anything to feel fake or forced, and I think a lot of immigrants are like that when they come over here as well. They bring their authentic selves over and they try to adjust and adapt to what it's really like over here. It is a actual learning process when you're living abroad, and I know a lot of people in my comments have lived abroad in other countries. People have mentioned this before. There is such, not just a culture shock, but such a big adjustment that takes place. So being able to document the adjustment for people who've maybe only ever lived in Australia to see what it's actually like from our perspective, for other people who've moved over to Australia to know that you're not alone. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. You're probably going to sound like an idiot at times, to be honest, and that's perfectly okay. I know in my culture shock video and my stereotypes video, I've had people call me all kinds of names. They've called me stupid. They said I've had a low IQ, all of that nonsense. And even though most of my audience is Australian, knowing that there are some expats who watch this, know that it's okay to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes when you come over here, and that's fine. And again, that's one of the reasons I'm filming this channel, is so that way people can see what my mistakes are. And a lot of people aren't going to be vocal about things that they've messed up. Let's be honest, we all try to be as perfect as possible, especially in like a social media world. But maybe if there's an expat out there who's made the same kind of mistakes that I have, they know that they're not alone. They know that some of this stuff is common, that their frustrations are kind of common, and honestly, sharing just the small little day-to-day triumphs too can be such a huge thing over here. Even if it's something as small as figuring out how to use the public transportation systems over here on your own for the first time. Walking around your neighborhood with Google Maps so that way you don't get lost, and after a couple times you kind of know where everything's at and you don't have to pull out your phone. Small little things like this seem like such a major accomplishment when you're moving from country to country. So sharing the ups and downs, sharing what it's really like day to day is something that I am so glad that this YouTube channel has given me a platform for. I really hope that this is something that my audience resonates with, not just the expats and immigrants, but the Aussies as well. So I started my channel in the beginning of August, and obviously you won't see some of my older videos. I've actually pulled down the ones that are completely irrelevant now. So the ones that I posted about travel exemptions, the very first video I ever posted, a lot of those I have unlisted, so that way there's not going to be any sort of confusion. Yes, like in theory they could still get me like views and all, but I don't want to put old, outdated, or false information out there for people. So I have completely removed my travel exemption videos, even though some of them were doing like fairly well. I didn't want there to be any sort of confusion, especially now that the border rules have changed. So even though technically to you guys it's going to look like I started my channel in September, I actually started it in August. So that's it for this little 6-month catch up, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit the like and subscribe button down below to join our little Amer-Australian family. I post on Mondays and sometimes Thursdays about the differences between American and Australian culture and the overall process of learning to live down under. My name is Kaitlyn, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!